Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crime Family. My name is Lisa, and I'm here with my co-host and siblings, Katie and AJ. And today I will be telling the story. And the case I have for you today is different than the ones I normally do. So this one is different because it's not unsolved. In fact, it was solved very quickly. There's no mystery about whether a crime occurred because a crime was committed and it was committed brutally. So what makes the case linger in my mind is the question of why. Why does anyone take another person's life? What makes someone snap? How does a moment something so small, which is the case in this case, turn into a decision that destroys lives forever? And it forces us to confront that age-old debate, one of my favorite, nature versus nurture. Are some people simply born evil, or can the environment someone grow up and create it? This is the case of Jayna Murray, also known as the yoga store murder. So it was another busy night in Bethesda Row in Bethesda, Maryland on March 11th, 2011. The shops were bustling and the restaurants were filling up. Bethesda Row is a downtown district in Bethesda, Maryland, and it offers a mix of open-air boutiques and shops and restaurants, salons and spas. So 30-year-old Jayna Murray arrived for her Friday night at the Lululemon store. She knew it was going to be an especially busy night for them since their neighbors, which was the Apple store, had just released the iPad 2, and there had been a line out the door all day. So Jayna, who wasn't supposed to be working that shift but had agreed to cover for a coworker, enters the store with her laptop tucked under her arm. She wasn't due to actually start her shift for another 2 hours, but she wanted to catch up on some schoolwork. So Jayna was actually working on her master's thesis. She was weeks away from graduating with an MBA, focused on business communications, and her thesis was Lululemon's business model, including emergency planning procedures. Jayna loved Lululemon. She had been working for them for 2 years. She was a great employee, known for doing cartwheels across the store and dancing with customers during the quieter hours. Her boyfriend was visiting from Seattle the following weekend, and Jayna hoped to get all her schoolwork done before he arrived. She actually planned to move to Seattle with her boyfriend once school was done, and had dreams of working for the Lululemon headquarters in Vancouver, BC. So that Friday night, there was supposed to be 3 people working, but one had called in sick. So it would just be Jayna and another employee, Brittany Norwood. So 28-year-old Brittany Norwood had just recently been transferred to this Lululemon location from another one. She was athletic, charismatic, and had dreams of becoming a personal trainer and opening her own gym. As she arrived for work that Friday, she was closer to achieving that dream than ever before, having secured a job interview at a local gym the following week. By 9 p.m., Lululemon was shutting its doors for the night, while the Apple store next door still had people lined up for that new iPad 2. Jayna and Brittany took about 45 minutes to do closing procedures, and then Jayna, who was the senior of the two, set the alarm and locked up. The two women said their goodbyes and went their separate ways, but not for long. The next morning, store manager and owner Rachel shows up at 8 a.m. to open the store. She passes a few people already lined up outside the Apple store to get that new iPad. So she stops outside the Lululemon store and is annoyed when she finds the front door unlocked. Rachel swears under her breath at Jayna for not locking up properly and opens the front doors. But as soon as she steps inside, the annoyance turns to fear because she can see something horrible has happened. Merchandise is strewn all over the place, mannequins are toppled over, and a flat screen TV is smashed on the floor. She ventures a little further and hears moaning coming from the back and stops dead when she sees it, a bloody footprint. She runs out of the store and calls 911. There's a man sitting on the bench who notices Rachel running out of the store looking frightened. His name is Ryan, and he's waiting for the Apple store to open. And he asks Rachel if everything is okay and tells her he hadn't seen anyone enter or exit the store since he had been sitting there, but he offers to go inside and take a look. So Ryan makes his way into the store. He sees the bloody shoe prints. He walks past the clothing racks and into the changing rooms. And this is where the bloody footprints seem to increase. So he calls out to see if anyone is there, but there is no response. He walks through the back of the door. So the way this Lululemon store is set up, there's a half door at the back of the store, then another door that leads to like a hallway with an emergency exit. So Ryan walks through this half door at the back of the store, and this is when he sees a large pool of blood that is seeping out from the second door. So Ryan tries to push the door open, but it won't open. He feels like there's something pushed up against it that is keeping it from opening, so he forces it open just enough to see what inside, and what he sees is horrifying. There's a body of a woman who is propped up against the door, and she is face down on the blood-drenched floor. So blood is splattered up the wall, and a rope is tied around the woman's neck. A red toolbox is sitting on the woman's back with multiple tools covered in blood scattered around her body. Ryan, panicked by what he has come across, he turns around and makes his way back outside. On his way back to the front of the store, he passes 2 staff bathrooms he hadn't noticed before, and a pair of legs protrude from one of the doorways. A pair of zip ties are around her ankles. It is the body of another woman, lying on her back with her wrists bound above her head. She is covered in wounds on her face and upper body, and blood is coated all over her clothes. She's wearing yoga pants, and the crotch looks like it has been slashed open, and there's a white rock about the size of a baseball that lay beside her in a pool of blood. Within minutes, 2 officers arrive and make their way to the rear of the store. Once the officers establish that the perpetrator or perpetrators are not anywhere in the store, they begin tending to the woman lying in the hallway. It's Jayna Murray, and she has been dead for a while. So the officers rush to the bathroom where the second body of a woman lies, Brittany Norwood. Her eyes are closed, but she is still breathing. An officer cuts the zip ties from her ankles and wrists, and paramedics take her to a nearby hospital. So the Montgomery police waste no time beginning their investigation. So right away, it looks like robbery was the motive. All the registers were open, receipts were strewn all around the floor, the safes are open and empty. So meanwhile at the hospital, Brittany regains consciousness. She has sustained multiple wounds to her chest, stomach, and legs. Her back has shards of glass embedded in it. And there's a large wound on her forehead, and her right hand is covered in defensive wounds. While still in shock, Brittany Norwood tells her story about what happened just hours before. So, according to Brittany, her and Jayna left the store and went their separate ways. But halfway to the subway, Brittany realizes that she forgot her wallet in the store. She didn't have any keys to the store, so she calls Jayna to explain the situation. Coincidentally, Jayna also forgot something behind, her laptop. So she tells Brittany to meet her back at the store. They both arrive back at the Lululemon store at a little bit after 10. Jayna opens the door, turns off the alarm, and they start searching for Brittany's wallet, but they can't find it anywhere. The 2 women searched for about 10 minutes before they decided to give up. Jayna gives Brittany her Metro card so she can get home and promises Brittany she will look for the wallet again tomorrow. Then, Brittany says, it is at this moment both ladies realize that they left the door unlocked when they came back in and someone is here. A man dressed in black, including gloves, a hoodie, and a ski mask, sneaks out from behind a clothing rack and hits Jane over the head with a metal bar. Brittany goes on to explain how another man dressed in black grabs her by the hair and begins cutting at her with a sharp object and warns her he will slash her neck if she says a word. The first man drags Jayna to the back hallway, and the second man takes Brittany to the staff bathroom. According to Brittany, the man was calling Brittany racial slurs and calling her a dirty slut. Once in the bathroom, he throws Brittany to the ground and rips open her yoga pants. Brittany begins crying uncontrollably as she describes the brutal rape that takes place that included a coat hanger. Afterwards, the man hits Brittany in the head with a hard object. This hit causes Brittany to float in and out of consciousness while the assault on her continued. Then her attacker tells her she needs to be quiet. So Brittany quiets, and this is when she says she could hear voices coming from the Apple store next door. And she begins to pray that someone will come to the rescue, but no one does. After a little bit, the voices next door get quiet down, and the man yanks Brittany to her feet and orders her to open up the cash registers and safes. Brittany obliges, and she says as she's doing this, she can hear Jayna screaming from the back of the store. She says Jayna's screams start loud, and they get quieter and quieter and quieter until there's no sound coming from her at all. The next thing Brittany remembers is being carried away on a stretcher and put into the back of an ambulance. When asked to describe the 2 men, Brittany says they were both of medium build, but one was significantly taller than the other one. Jayna's attacker was approximately 6 feet tall, while the man who assaulted Norwood was about 5'5". From the voices, Brittany guessed they were white American males. Since they were covered in black from head to toe, Brittany isn't able to give much more of a description. She then tells detectives that she blames herself. If it was because of her, they had to go back to the store. If she hadn't forgotten her wallet, Jayna would still be alive. The interview takes about 48 minutes, and after it is done, a timeline of events start to take shape for police based on what Brittany has told them. So police believe that the 2 men had seen Jayna and Brittany go back into the store at around 10 and seen an opportunity to rob them and follow the girls inside. Lululemon announces right away that they are offering a $125,000 reward for any information that leads to the capture of the 2 men. And the chief of police addressed reporters outside the Lululemon store, giving them descriptions of the 2 men and pleading for witnesses to come forward. So later that day, an Apple employee is interviewed. She is shaken and very upset. She was working the previous night during the attack, and she had heard commotion next door. She had heard raised voices, but she had dismissed it as a spat between coworkers. She didn't go over to see what was going on, didn't offer assistance, and now the guilt has arrived. So Jayna's murder had happened 8 feet away, where the Apple employees had stood and listened against the wall to Jayna's screams. So Lululemon didn't have any security cameras inside, which I found very shocking. But Lululemon didn't have any security cameras inside the store, but there was CCTV at the back of the store. And what those CCTV cameras showed was the first big break in the case. So it showed the car park that is shared by the Apple store. And at first, nothing stands out. But then at 11 p.m., which is after the attack took place, two men enter the frame and they are both dressed entirely in black. The taller of the two wore a ski mask, rolled up like a beanie, and has a backpack slung over one shoulder, while the shorter man is talking on the phone. They are walking fast, like they are in a hurry. They quickly walk out of frame. The detectives go back frame by frame to try and get a clearer look at the men's faces, but surprise, surprise, it's too blurry. So the two police detectives are convinced they got the guys, they just have to find them. Then another lead emerges. A day after the murder, a two-door silver Pontiac Jeep is found 3 blocks away from the Lululemon store in a car park. The car is Jayna's. But where the car is parked doesn't make sense to police. There was a lot of available parking at the front of the store or closer to the store at 10 p.m. when Jayna came back to help look for Brittany's wallet. So why would Jayna park so far away? Once this is released, a patrolman comes forward to announce he was on duty that night and he had been patrolling that car park at around midnight or a little bit after. And he says that he drove past Jayna's car. He noticed someone in the driver's seat. So this is about 90 minutes after those two men were seen on the CCTV camera walking quickly past the store. The patrolman says he had considered pulling over the driver to see what was going on, but he decides not to. He had not been able to really see who it was, so he can't tell police any features or description of any sort. So 2 hours later, the patrolman is making his rounds again, and he sees that car again in the same spot with its lights on still, but this time he can't tell there's anyone in the driver's seat. The third time he makes his rounds to the car park, again he sees Jayna's car, but this time the lights are off and no one is around. When the detectives hear this story, they assume it was Jayna's killer in the car. But why? The police are more determined than ever to find the person or persons who did this. So tips are rolling in, and one name keeps popping up over and over: Keith Lockett. So Keith Lockett was a homeless man who was very well known in Bethesda. He didn't have the best rap. He was known to get drunk and be verbally abusive to the women in the community, and they were all terrified of him. So police discover that there's a local restaurant that Keith always goes to. So they visit that restaurant, and the manager there tells them that, yes, Keith usually comes in every day, but on Friday, the day of the attack, and the day afterwards, Keith never came to the restaurant. So a worker nearby gets wind that the police are looking for Keith and goes to police to tell them that he had seen Keith walk by the Lululemon store the night of the attack, and he had a backpack over his shoulder. The worker adds this little detail about the backpack because he thought it was strange because he had never ever seen Keith wear a backpack before. Keith was accompanied by two men, and the worker had never seen before. Turns out, so like I said, this Keith guy had a long rap sheet which included burglary and assault and battery. So the police set out to search for Keith, and it doesn't take long to find him. He's in a hospital out of town being treated for injuries to his face, which include a swollen eye. There are spots of blood on his clothes, and the police wonder if the blood is from the attack of Jayna and Brittany. DNA testing is done on Keith's clothes, and once Keith is released from the hospital, he is instantly taken to the police station. So he tells police he was attacked by a short Spanish dude and becomes visibly emotional as he tells police he was standing right across the road from the store when he says he saw a black man and a Spanish man rob the ladies and then, quote, cut her. There are many inconsistencies with Keith's story, however, and police later discover he has mental health problems, so they cast doubt on his story and involvement. When no DNA evidence could be linked back to him, he's officially eliminated as a suspect.
Do they think then that, like, I mean, maybe we'll get into it, but, like, they think, "Oh, because he has mental health issues, he made it all up."
Yeah, like he I didn't go elaborate further, but essentially he starts telling the story like, I saw a black man and a Spanish man cut the girls, and he's saying what he saw through the window, but it's a lie. Based like what he said has happened based on the scene, and it's not really didn't really happen. He's not like being, and then he changes the story again, and then they find out he has like bipolar and he had a lot of mental health issues and stuff. So that's yeah, they just
But
determined he
doesn't
was
it kind of match up with what Brittany was saying? Because she said there was 2 men that came into the store.
yeah,
And then the
yeah.
CCTV shows 2 men, one with a backpack.
I
Or it's
know.
like maybe he does see those men, but he didn't see them attack anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like and that hardware worker saying I did see Keith that night with 2 men walking past the store. But yeah, he's saying I looked through the window and I saw it all happen. He's trying to say what happened, but that doesn't go with what Brittany said what happened. So
Okay,
they
right.
like, yeah, so they, and there's no DNA evidence. The blood on him was actually his from someone did attack him. Like, that's true. Someone did jump him. And it was his blood. There's no blood of anyone else's.
And they were like attacked in the back, right? So it's not like you could see that through the window, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's kind of just.
So did he like think he was actually like? Did he actually think that he saw it and thought he was telling the truth, or he was like maliciously just lying to?
I don't
do it.
I didn't take it as him being malicious. I think he really was like kind of out of it and just said, no, I did. Poor girls, I saw them cut her. I saw this guy cut her, but as you'll find out later, it happens in the back of the store. How could anyone see it? If and what he's saying doesn't go with what Britney's story is. So anyway, they just dismiss him. They dismiss him pretty quickly. So Jayna's autopsy shows that the attack on her was brutal. She had bruises and lacerations all over her face and scalp, and her face was so disfigured that her features were unrecognizable. There were lacerations on her torso and back, some as deep as 4 inches. Her leggings were ripped at the crotch, and there was blood in a spot that seemed to indicate to police that Jayna had been sexually assaulted. Fibers of rope were found clenched in her hand that matched the rope tied around her neck, showing that Jayna had fought desperately to loosen that rope around her neck. However, strangulation was not the cause of death. Jayna died by a stab wound to her neck, a 1-inch stab wound that severed her brainstem. Jayna had suffered 13 skull fractures and at least 331 separate injuries. 152 of those wounds were to her head. 105 of them were defensive wounds. These injuries to her were inflicted by many different objects that could be found all around the store and included in that toolbox that had been found sitting empty on Jayna's back when her body was found.
I just want to say that, like, right now, this seems like if it was a robbery gone wrong, like, first of all, why are they beating the shit out of these girls before they even rob anything or attempt to? And it just seems like way too much of an attack for it to be random.
I say that's what I bring up. Yeah, exactly.
It seems like targeted.
Personal. Exactly.
Yeah, personal.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yes. Okay. So that's a big red flag going up for police right away, pretty much. So some of those tools that were used on Jayna were a wrench, a foot-long metal bar, a metal display hook, a box cutter, a Buddha statue, and an X-Acto knife. It's such overkill and seems personal. Usually a killing perpetrated by a stranger doesn't have such overkill. So 3 days after...
But also it seems a little bit like personal, but also possibly unplanned in terms of like, because they're just using whatever is around, not like they came with something. It was just like,
and it kind of goes with a theory, like the cops thinking like it wasn't really planned. Like those 2 men happened to walk by, seeing these girls go back into a store, and then that's when they decided we're robbing them. So that maybe wasn't planned. It was just opportunity,
like planned in the moment.
Yeah. That's what
planned.
But then why would it be? It wouldn't be personal then if it was random people that happened to see 2 random girls go into a random store.
Exactly.
I mean, unless you're just, I mean, I guess it could be like if it's just you're a really fucked up person. I mean, obviously you are anyway if you do it, regardless of who you are. But maybe they're just, I don't know. Like 2 random people can just be so fucked up. They're just like, let's do this for fun because they want to.
Yeah. It seems to me like when the police first come to the scene, they think of robbery right away. I think once the medical examiner tells them how Jayna died and stuff, it kind of switches to, I don't think it was strangers for the police anyway. I think that's what police. I think the robbery thing, they don't think that for long. 3 days after the attacks, Brittany is released from hospital and into her family's care. She is one of 8 siblings, and she's surrounded immediately by her family. Her family, who had flown across the country from Washington State, are happy to have Brittany close by. They had been worried about her recently. She had seemed withdrawn and hadn't been sleeping well lately. So, on the second day of Brittany's release from hospital, the police visited her home to get a second statement from her. They're no closer to solving this than they were a couple days ago, and they're desperate to gather more clues and info from the key witness. So Brittany tells the story for the second time, taking time to collect her emotions all over again. But she does add some new details she hadn't before. She tells police that she now remembers that the 2 men had been laughing about the robbery and the rape. She also tells police there's something she had been keeping from them, something she was scared to tell them initially. The 2 masked men know where she lives. Brittany explained that the 2 men had gone through her purse and found 2 utility bills that were addressed to Brittany, and the bills had her address on them. And ever since that night, Brittany had been terrified that they were going to come to her house and finish what they started. So after Brittany gives her statement for the second time, Brittany's brother Chris asks to speak to police. He has a question that has been bothering him for a while. He asked the police, "Why do you think the killers spared my sister when Jayna had been so savagely beaten and murdered?" The detective paused, and then he decides to answer Chris' question with one of his own. What kind of person is Brittany? This time, Chris takes a second to pause, and then he says this: Brittany is very secretive. So, while the detectives are at Brittany's, more are back at the Lululemon store to reassess the crime scene for the 100th time because to one officer specifically, there's something about the scene that isn't sitting right with him. Why were only Brittany's footprints and one other set found in the store when there were 2 masked men involved? When police had arrived at the scene, they saw bloody shoe prints all over the store and around the cash registers. This made sense if Brittany and one of the men were at the front opening the registers and emptying the safe like Brittany had said. One set of footprints were a size 7.5 New Balance shoe that belonged to Brittany, and the second set of footprints were from a size 14 Reebok men's shoe. But why isn't there 4 sets of bloody footprints, not just 2? Also, why were there no bloody footprints outside the store, either at the back or the front? So he goes back inside and looks over the scene again, and this time he notices something he hadn't noticed before. There's this table that is against one of the walls, and this table has drawers attached underneath it. So he decides to do something he hadn't done previously. He decides to open the drawers. He opens the first drawer, and inside the top drawer is a pair of Reebok men's sneakers, size 14. The tread is an exact match to the large bloody shoe prints that were found all over the store. So the smaller New Balance shoe prints had suddenly stopped at the sink at the back of the store, and then there was another strange-looking blood trail from the sink to that table of drawers where the Reeboks had been stored. So Rachel, the store manager and owner, is questioned about these Reebok shoes, and she says, yes, those are the shoes owned by the store, and they're kept in the store for the male customers to try on when buying pants. So this is the tiny detail that breaks the case wide open for this one lead detective.
Why do you need shoes to try on pants?
Just for length, or to see how, for length.
People don't have their own shoes.
I was gonna say, don't they have their own shoes to try pants on?
That's so weird.
You know what? I never actually thought of that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense because working retail, I'm like, oh yeah, we keep a pair of shoes. But then I was like, yeah, I can understand if it was women's shoes, keep a pair of heels for a dress or something at the store. But men come in, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Why don't they have their own shoes?
Well, maybe men don't always come in with workout shoes. Maybe this is a pair of sneakers, but you would wear to the gym, maybe. But
yeah, and also goes into when I looked into this a little further, it said if they wanted something tailored and they want to know how long it's going to be with the shoes, because the shoes had a little bit of height, they just want to get it. They just want it. So this is the tiny detail that breaks the case wide open. The police quickly determined these Reebok shoe prints were staged. Because the shoe prints were inconsistent with normal movement. When the rest of the police
do those Reeboks that are the store's pair have blood all over them or look like they were washed off? To me, it's thinking though they were somebody. Brittany had those shoes on, made it look like someone else was there, and then washed them off, put them back.
So we talk about this later. They do some person does wash them in the back sink. So the police quickly determined these Reebok shoe prints were staged. The shoe prints were inconsistent with normal movement. When the rest of the police hear this development, it shocks them, and the shock only gets amplified by the next piece of info relayed to them. Those bloody shoe prints never left the store because the killer never left the store. 6 days after the murder, March 17th, 28-year-old Brittany Norwood arrives back at the police station, but this time she has agreed to give hair samples and fingerprint samples. When Brittany arrives, she is taken into an interview room and is told the technician who is going to be taking her DNA samples is running late. So while they wait, why doesn't Brittany just tell the police one more time about the events of March 11th? So Brittany tells her story for the third time, but this time, the police ask her if she had ever been near Jayna's car before. Brittany says she hasn't. Then the technician comes in, and Brittany gives the DNA samples and goes home. The next day, the detective who had been to Brittany's house before receives a phone call from Brittany's brother, Chris. He tells the detective that Brittany has something she wants to get off her chest, and can he meet with Brittany? So Brittany arrives back at the station. This time she has one of her brothers and one of her sisters in tow. And she tells the officer there's something she hadn't revealed before because she was scared. She now tells the officer that yes, she actually had been inside Jayna's car before. She says halfway through the attack, her attacker demanded her to move Jayna's car. He doesn't give her an explanation to Brittany why he wants her to do this, that's just that she has to do it. She says, quote, they said if I was to pass anyone and open my mouth, I can consider myself dead, and that one of them would be watching me the entire time. I remember seeing a cop, but I was too scared to even wave him down. Brittany explains how she parked the car a few blocks away and walked back to Lululemon. She walked past pedestrians while she is covered in blood, but says no one notices her injuries and she was too scared to ask anyone for help. Why didn't she drive Jayna's car to safety? So when she's asked this very question, Brittany says the attackers knew where she lived and she was scared they would show up there. So the rest of her story continues, and it's all the same as the first two times. So when she's finished talking, the police get up and go grab her brother and sister and take them to another interview room and tell them something that shocks them to their core and that will shock the whole community. They say to her siblings, Brittany killed Jayna. Brittany's siblings are then told a horrifying story and are stunned into silence as the police go over all the extensive evidence they have collected that point to Brittany as the one and only attacker. So this is like a very short investigation. I'm going to go into what they were all, because behind the scenes things were pointing to Brittany, but no one else knew that obviously. So this is what they discovered during the week-long investigation. So those two men captured on CCTV camera behind the store right after the attack, who seemed to be walking quickly past the store, were actually two kitchen hands that worked at a nearby restaurant, and they were running because they were late for work, and they had been interviewed and ruled out as suspects. So they were down right away. So there was a ton of evidence that pointed to Brittany inside the Lululemon store, but the analysis of Jayna's car was the final piece to the puzzle that pointed to Brittany. So when they had asked Brittany if she had ever been in Jayna's car, they had asked that already knowing she had been. Forensic examinations showed that there was blood in the car's stick shift, the steering wheel, and the inside of the door. DNA analysis showed that blood belonged to two people, Jayna Murray and Brittany Norwood. There was a black Lululemon hat that was found in the back seat of Jayna's car that had a blood stain on it in the same exact location of the wound on Brittany's head. DNA confirmed it was Brittany's blood on the hat. So Brittany at first said no, she had never been in Jayna's car, and then came back the next day with that tale of, well, actually I was in her car because they made me drive Jayna's car away from the store. So it was Brittany who the patrolman had seen during his rounds sitting in the front seat. Next, further interviews with the Apple Store employees who had been working that night revealed to police that they had heard two women's voices that night, which would make sense because there were two women in there, Jayna and Brittany, but it is what the employees heard the two women's voices saying that caused alarm. It is reported that the employees heard two women arguing loudly before the screaming began. Before the screaming began, one woman could be heard yelling, "Talk to me, don't do this, what's going on?" and then screaming, and then someone's yelling, "God help me." From the very beginning, Chris, Brittany's brother, had thought it was strange that Jayna received such a savage beating and fatal injuries, while Brittany received only superficial injuries that required only a short stay in hospital. Brittany had tried to explain this away, but saying the reason she had been spared from the brunt of the attack was because the rapist had said she was, quote, fun to fuck. However, Brittany was examined by a nurse who was trained in treating patients of sexual assault and found no clinical signs that Brittany had in fact been raped. She also didn't find any physical injuries that you would suspect to see after a violent sexual assault, and there were no traces of semen at the scene. So, in Brittany's original statement to police, She tells police she had not been near Jayna's body since the two had been separated. So when masked man number 1 dragged Jayna to the back hallway and masked man number 2 dragged Brittany to the staff washroom, Brittany's saying that's the last time she saw Jayna. However, 3 days after the attack, when Brittany gave her second statement, she told police she just remembered something else. She says she remembered the attacker pushing her onto Jayna's body in an effort to psychologically torture her. Obviously, police believe Brittany concocted this random piece of info to explain why some of Brittany's blood was found on Jayna's body. All injuries afflicted that were on Brittany, police discovered were self-inflicted. She could have inflicted them on herself. Brittany had said she had been slashed and stabbed over her clothes, but none of the clothing she was wearing that night had slash marks of any kind. When Brittany was found, remember, she had her wrists zip-tied together and her hands were raised above her head, which didn't make sense to police right away. There seemed to be no reason for the position because Brittany could have, lowered her hands. Why was she like this? They thought that was kind of weird and over-dramatic. She didn't have to have her hands over her head. That was weird to them. So when the zip ties that were around Brittany's ankles and wrists were analyzed, it confirmed that bite marks from Brittany were found on them, meaning she had zip-tied her hands together with her teeth. A 2-inch laceration that was between Brittany's thumb and forefinger was initially believed to be a defensive wound from a knife, but was later determined to be a wound from the knife slipping from Brittany's hands as she was stabbing Jayna. And then the attack itself. So, like I said before, Jayna was so savagely murdered and her face was left disfigured, it pointed to the attack being personal. Someone who had a lot of rage towards Jayna and not a random stranger. So this begged the biggest question of all. Why did Brittany Norwood murder Jayna Murray? So I'm going to go into the background of Brittany a little bit and kind of I'm going to take you to a background of what led up to her working at Lululemon. Kind of paints a picture a little bit of her. So Brittany Norwood, she came from a very good family. It was a family of overachievers, and she grew up in Washington State. She did well in school and excelled in all aspects, but it was on the field playing soccer where her talents really lied. Brittany had actually received an athletic scholarship at Stony Brook University, where she was named the team's most valuable player. She dreamed of being a social worker, and she was studying sociology and psychology as well, which is just fascinating that she was, of all people, studying psychology. And then in 2004, Brittany is asked to leave the university. This comes after numerous friends accuse her of stealing from them. So Brittany does admit to stealing, but promises she wouldn't do it again, and then breaks down and pleads to her friends to not abandon me. I won't steal anymore. But that promise didn't last long. She then goes on to steal about $300 from her sister during a family gathering. But unlike before, Brittany doesn't confess to this. She's adamant she didn't steal from her sister. She then tells her family she graduated from university when in fact she got kicked out and left before she completed her degree. So after all this, Brittany secures a job at Willow Intercontinental Hotel, which is actually just a stone's throw from the White House. And at this job, Brittany is well-liked and quickly gets promoted and even once received Employee of the Quarter. So things seem to be looking up. She seems to be getting her life on track, but not for long. In 2007, she and her boyfriend broke up after 18 months. A year later, she breaks into his house and steals various things like jewelry, blank checks, and car keys. Her ex then files a restraining order against her, and in that restraining order, he says Brittany had been physically abusive towards them, and he feared for his life. So Brittany violates the restraining order within 2 weeks, and an arrest warrant is issued for her, but it was never executed, and the warrant expired after a year. So Brittany had a goal of becoming a personal trainer, so she left her job at the hotel, took a significant pay cut to work at Lululemon in Georgetown, D.C. Not long after she starts working there, she is accused of stealing from the tills. In January 2011, 2 months before the murder, she is fired from the Lululemon job for abusing her staff discount. But she fights this. She fights against this, and in the end, Lululemon decides to instead transfer her to the Bethesda row Lululemon instead. So this takes us to how and why Brittany ended up at Lululemon and her shady history prior to all this. So Brittany gets transferred to this new location and meets up with her future co-workers and sends them all a group text after meeting them, which reads, "You have such a solid team. I know it will be a great experience." So everything seems to be starting off well. Brittany is making a good first impression. So things are going good. But over the next coming weeks, her new Lululemon employees start noticing things are going missing. So they go to the manager and explain that someone is stealing and when the manager checks the schedule, they notice that Brittany was working every time something went missing. So there's a staff meeting 2 days before the attack. It's described as like a weekly leadership meeting. And at this meeting, the team discusses what to do with Brittany and how to handle the thefts. They know they have to catch her in the act so they can actually legitimately fire her. So they toss ideas around, and one jokes they should set up a nanny cam in the store. So by the time the meeting ends, the group has come to a decision. They decide they will announce to the rest of the staff that there's possibly a thief among them, and then see what happens with Brittany. And before they all leave, Jayna makes a comment saying, like, I have to close with the thief tonight. Do you think I will catch her? So now it is Friday, March 11th, the day of the attack. Jayna and Brittany are working together, and they seem to be working happily together that night until it came time for closing. As the girls get ready to go, Jayna asked to look inside Brittany's bag, which is standard store procedure for all staff members. When Brittany opens her bag, Jayna sees a pair of yoga pants with the tag still attached and no store receipt. Brittany says, she bought them earlier that day, but since the cash registers were already cashed out and closed for the night, Jayna tells Brittany not to worry, they would sort it out the next day. Then the two girls lock up and exit the store. On the way to her car, Jayna calls the staff member who Brittany says rung up her purchase of the pants, and the employee denies ever selling Brittany anything that day. So then Jayna calls her boss, Rachel, who tells Jayna not to worry. Now that they caught Brittany in the act, Rachel is going to fire her the next day. Then, as Jayna's driving home to her house, Brittany calls her, and that's when she tells her that she forgot her wallet in the store and needs Jayna to come back and let her in the store so she can look for it. So once both girls are back in the store, Brittany and Jayna are the only ones who knows what happens next. Brittany, for the most part, has kind of always denied her part in this, so no one knows for sure what happened, like exactly happened, but police think Brittany probably asked Jayna what was going to happen to her now that she had been caught stealing. Things escalate from there, and again, no one knows what was really said other than what the Apple employees heard them saying. So forensic examination shows Brittany first attacked Jayna in the back of the store, hitting her in the head with a metal bar. Jayna fought hard against Brittany, which was evident with the defensive wounds on Jayna. Then the final blow to Jayna, the fatal blow, was from a knife that was always kept in the back of the store. So why did Brittany move Jayna's car? Jayna had parked in a no-standing spot right outside, probably thinking she was only going to be a minute, running right inside to grab Brittany's wallet. Brittany feared Jayna's car would draw attention. Brittany rummages in Jayna's purse and grabs Jayna's car keys, and she drives Jayna's car 3 blocks away to that random car park. And then police believe Brittany sat in Jayna's car for a bit, which the patrolman had seen. And she was like Brittany was likely sitting there figuring out what to do next. Had that patrol officer actually went over to investigate like he was thought about, he would have seen Brittany covered in blood. Brittany then returned to the store at some point and stood in the huge amount of blood from Jayna's body. Brittany then took out the Reebok shoes and put them on and walked the bloody shoe prints out to the registers and safes. She then put a New Balance shoes on and repeated the process, walking around the register and safes to create the evidence of that part of her story. She then walks to the back sink and washes both shoes in the back sink. She then puts the New Balance shoes on and walks the Reebok shoes back to the drawer, and as Brittany walked, her own shoelaces left little marks of diluted blood, which is that strange blood trail that the cop was like, I didn't understand what it was from. Brittany then throws all the clothes from the racks all around the store, topple over mannequins to make it look like a struggle had taken place. She slashes a hole in the crotch of Jayna's leggings to suggest sexual assault, and once the scene was staged, Brittany then inflicted several cuts on her own body, slashed open the crotch of her own pants to again make it seem like sexual assault. She restrained her ankles and wrists and laid on the bathroom floor. Now all she had to do was wait for the morning shift person to arrive. So Brittany's family refused to believe this at first. They refused to believe that their sister would murder someone over a pair of stolen yoga pants. That is exactly what it was. The lead detective working the case had a hard time accepting it was Brittany as well. Over the course of the investigation, he actually grew really close to the Norwood family and really liked them. Brittany's dad had actually invited the detective fishing once the investigation is over. So he's grown close with Brittany's family, the detective, and he just cannot believe that Brittany did this. So on March 18th, exactly 1 week after the murder, so it's only a week-long investigation, it's very short. On March 18th, exactly 1 week after the murder, Brittany is arrested for first-degree murder. The day of the arrest also happened to be the day of Jayna's funeral. Over 200 people gathered to say goodbye, including the Lululemon founder and CEO. So while Jayna's parents were driving to their daughter's funeral, they received the call they had been waiting for. They had made an arrest. But when they learn who, they are horrified. The horror of the crime was compounded by the betrayal. The murderer had been a trusted co-worker, someone who worked alongside Jayna moments before her death. I talked about Brittany's background a little bit. I'll go quickly into Jayna's background, which is not a lot about Jayna out there, which is unfortunate because she's the victim. I couldn't really find a lot about Jayna. I found a lot about Brittany, but this is just a quick synopsis of who Jayna was. So Jayna Murray, she was a graduate student at Johns Hopkins University, and she spent much of her childhood in the Houston area. She attended a university in Spain for 2 years before graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree from George Washington University in Washington, D.C. Jayna was new completion of her Master's in Communication and Master in Business Administration from Johns Hopkins University. She loved animals, dance, and travel, and she also carried with her an extensive volunteer resume involving many different organizations. Jayna loved life on the edge and to the fullest. Multiple adventures in all phases of completion describe the way this incredible young woman lived her life. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of who Jayna was. Brittany is never confessed to the crime, but to the surprise of everyone, during opening statements, her defense team does admit that Brittany did kill Jayna, but it wasn't first degree, it was second degree. So the defense acknowledged from the outset that Brittany Norwood was responsible for the killing, but sought to persuade jurors that she acted in a sudden rage rather than with deliberate intent. So the trial lasts for 6 days, and during the trial, the medical examiner testifies that Jayna suffered more than 300 wounds, and that Jayna was alive for all of them. And Brittany used at least 5 different weapons, which I kind of talked about earlier. And the motive? Theft and escalating anger. Jayna had caught Brittany stealing yoga pants from the store earlier that day. Threatened with exposure and termination, Brittany lashed out violently, brutally murdering her colleague in a premeditated attack. Her superficial injuries, initially thought to be from the attackers, were self-inflicted to complete the deception. Blood spatter specialists shocked the courtroom by stating that Murray was attacked first while upright, then again as she crouched down, and the experts said the most lethal strikes occurred once she was down on the floor. So prosecutors said they had planned to seek a sentence of life in prison without parole, but Brittany Norwood's attorney, Douglas Wood, argued that she lost control and used whatever weapons were nearby, maintaining that the crime did not involve the premeditation necessary for a first-degree murder conviction. In his closing argument, her lawyer attempted to raise doubt by describing the incident as a fight between Norwood and Murray, asserting that Norwood simply lost it. Had jurors accepted this argument, Norwood could be found guilty of a lesser charge of murder, which carries a reduced sentence. However, jurors were unconvinced after hearing days of extensive forensic testimony, including evidence about Murray's blood spattered throughout the store and bloody shoe prints recovered from the floor. Prosecutors emphasized the length of time the attack took and the numerous weapons involved. Under Maryland law, premeditation can form in an instant. So in closing arguments, the prosecutor argued that the forensic evidence clearly demonstrated that Norwood carried out a premeditated killing. The jury deliberated for only an hour before delivering the verdict, guilty of first degree. Brittany Norwood was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on January 27, 2012. Moments before receiving her life sentence without the possibility of parole, Brittany tearfully apologized to the family of the woman she was convicted of killing. She says, quote, "I hope for the Murray family someday you'll be able to find forgiveness in your heart. I am truly sorry." But the judge, Robert A. Greenberg, he denies Norwood's request for a sentence that would have made her eligible for parole, a plea that Brittany said would leave her with some hope. And so the judge goes on to say, "I'm exceedingly reluctant to grant you even the slightest chance of doing this to another member of the community." And as the judge delivered the sentence, members of the Murray family applauded and exhaled in relief. So the judge goes on to, the judge is disgusted with Brittany. He goes on to say, "On several different levels, this case exemplified the worst of human behavior," Greenberg said, citing both the cold-blooded, calculated manner in which Norwood carried out the crime and the callous indifference at the Apple Store employees who heard the incident unfold and didn't do a blessed thing. "Most of us can only shake our heads in amazement, wonderment, and disgust," he added. "A person who can commit such a crime stands very little chance of being rehabilitated." Andre Norwood, who's Brittany's brother, described the enduring love and support his family had for his sister and said the trial portrayed her as undeserving of sympathy. and he says, quote, "I know a different person than the one presented in court." In his remarks, Andre urged the judge to allow his sister the possibility of parole. She deserves to face the consequences of her conviction. Brittany understands that, and so do I. Still, he argued that the sentence should recognize that Brittany is someone worthy of compassion, capable of rehabilitation, and perhaps one day redemption. After the sentencing, Montgomery County State's Attorney McCarthy addressed reporters, describing Greenberg's ruling as fair, just, and appropriate. With this sentence, Miss Norwood will spend the rest of her life in prison. So, a lot of people have been talking about the Apple employees and how could they have heard this and not done anything.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah,
I was like,
so
because you said that they heard that they thought it was just a spat, but then they say what they heard. I'm like, that sounds
yeah.
like more than.
So the Apple employees who were working that night, they actually testified for the prosecution. And the shocking testimony reveals that the Apple Store employees next to the Lululemon store heard Murray's desperate cries for her life as they locked up, but did nothing, or did not call for help. So there's two actually really good books about this murder. There's one called The Yoga Store Murder, The Shocking True Account of the Lululemon Athletica Killing by Dan Morse. And he actually, I just want to read you a spread because he talks about what was happening at the Lululemon, at the Apple store during the attack. So this is it from his book. So Jayna heard the noises as she crossed the sales floor of the Apple store, which are closed for the night. The sounds were a mix of high-pitched yelps and squeals, interspersed with low grunts, thuds, and the dragging of something heavy. Jayna guessed they might be coming from a room near the back exit or from the upstairs area where technicians were still working. She called over a security guard to help search. Jayna and the security guard split up, regrouping 2 minutes later upstairs, where they met another young manager, Ricardo Rios. Screaming, the guard said. It sounded like some woman was screaming. They checked the technician's room. Nothing. Returning to the sales floor, more yelling reached their ears. "It's coming from next door," Jayna said, referring to Lululemon Athletica, the upscale yoga store that shares a wall with Apple. So they share a wall, so they had, you can hear easily what's going on. Jayna and Ricardo moved closer to the wall, and she could now hear someone pleading, "Talk to me. Don't do this to me. Talk to me. What's going on?" Then Jayna heard what seemed like a different voice, perhaps the same one that had been screaming earlier, but now the voice was quieter, saying, "God help me. God help me." Maybe I should just call the cops," Jayna says. "That's up to you," Ricardo replied. He suggested it sounded like one person had just received bad news and the other was trying to get her to talk. "I think it's just drama," he said. Ricardo went back upstairs. It was 10:19 p.m., 8 minutes after Jayna had first heard the noises. Meanwhile, Wilbert Hawkins, a second security guard, had been watching the commotion. He assumed the crashing sounds could be a fallen merchandise display and that the yelling was likely just horseplay. Jayna, Ricardo, and Hawkins all shared the same conclusion, and there was probably a simple explanation for the noises. So that's excerpt from the book. That kind of goes into detail what the Apple people heard that night, and they still didn't do anything. They thought it was horseplay when someone's yelling "God help me." So I guess that's kind of the horseplay they do. I guess. So.
Wait, so Jayna is someone from the Apple store?
Yeah, no, it's Jayna.
Jayna,
I know. I was trying to make sure I said Jayna. So it's Jayna Murray's the one that got killed, and then there's Jayna from the Apple store.
Oh, okay. Because you said Jayna, and I was like, is she
I know.
accidentally saying
No,
the wrong
and
name?
I'm like, I'd make sure I say Jayna. Yeah, so it's Jayna. Okay, so that's kind of like the excerpt from the book when it talks about because a lot of people in this case can't get over the Apple store employees hearing something. So David Murray, who was Jayna's father, expressed a desire to turn his daughter's murder into something that could help others with early non-specific hopes of creating a law in her honor. So Murray shared that they plan to begin advocating soon for a member of Congress to support what he calls, what we now have, the Good Samaritan Law. The proposed law aimed to address the culture of silence and encourage bystanders to intervene or report crimes without fear of repercussions. So we have the Good Samaritan Law now, but it wasn't invented because of this crime. It's just, we know it now, like Good Samaritan Law, you call if someone's overdosing or something. I think that's what it was. Like, if someone's overdosing, you can't get in trouble if you have it on you. So that's what we know. That's what I know of the Good Samaritan Law. But anyway, so Jayna had moved to Maryland to pursue her passion for health and fitness. So to honor her memory, her family established the Jayna Murray Foundation, which awards scholarships to students who share her dedication to healthy living. The foundation held its first 5K benefit run in September of 2011, and according to event organizers, the race attracted about 600 people, consisting of mostly Maryland, Virginia, and DC residents. Runners also came from places as far as California and Japan, and organizers said participants ranged from age 8 to 83. So officials estimate that the event raised around $20,000, and all proceeds benefited the Jayna Murray Foundation. After her 2012 conviction, Brittany Norwood filed an appeal, contending that a police interrogation during what she first claimed to be a victim was improper because officers did not advise her of her Miranda rights. In 2015, however, the Maryland Court of Special Appeals upheld the conviction, concluding that she spoke with investigators voluntarily, appeared to control the exchange, and was not legally considered in custody during the initial interviews. So, I mean, she wasn't considered a suspect, so why would they read her Miranda rights? So that's what she's saying, but the judge's like, no, you're an idiot. That's not happening. So that's kind of where it ended. So 2015, they denied her appeal, and she's serving life in prison. So the story became known as the yoga store murder, and it's a tragic reminder of how deceit, jealousy, and violence can lurk in the most unexpected places. So like I said, this case to me is very, it just stuck with me because it's I almost find these cases more interesting than the serial killer cases, because you have someone who, I mean, she had a shady past, but she came from a normal family, all like such a good family. There was no trauma, no abuse or anything, and someone just kills someone over a pair of yoga pants. Like, it's just what makes someone kill
Yeah,
someone.
what's wrong with her?
It's crazy.
Right?
I always find it so interesting that
it's crazy to me.
somebody commits a worse crime to cover up a small one. Like, she was going to get in trouble for stealing, but I'm going to murder someone just to cover that up. Like, that does not help. Yeah.
It's almost more interesting to me than the serial killer cases, because you have someone who only murdered once, had no history. It's just crazy. So this also brings up, the nature versus nurture debate. Like I said, it raises questions about whether individuals are born with tendencies towards harmful behavior, or whether their environment, upbringing, experiences shape those tendencies. So it brings up the question: are some people just born evil, no matter, or are they bred that way? What do you guys think?
Well, was she a sociopath? Like, did they actually look at that? She does not empathize with anybody. She's like very selfish. Everything's about her.
I don't know. If you look at her picture, I think it's her mugshot. Her eyes she looks evil. Like
Yeah, I was looking that up.
She's evil. Her eyes, I do believe that some people are born evil. I do believe that. Because it's she had a family of 8, and she's the only one that had those tendencies. Why?
Yeah.
If you're a sociopath, that's not necessarily evil, but that you can definitely go down the evil road if you're already don't have that conscious, right?
But I always wonder, so I guess someone can be born a sociopath, or you become that.
That's the debate, right? And I've always believed some people are born. I mean, obviously, nurture, if you have a messed up environment too, that for some people that kind of. But some people, you also hear those stories of 8-year-old kids who kill their parents. At 8, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. So there's some points to consider. So it says certain personality traits or predispositions like impulsivity, aggression, or difficulty with empathy can have biological roots, and these may take someone more prone to violent behavior. But they don't guarantee it. And then there's the nurture, which is childhood experiences, family dynamics, exposure to violence, neglect, or other traumatic events can profoundly shape behavior. But most psychologists today agree it's rarely one or the other. It's usually an interplay of both. Genetics might set certain tendencies, but environmental factors often determine whether those tendencies are expressed. So in a case like Brittany's, people often wonder, was it something innate about her personality, or did life circumstances push her towards that tragic outcome? So that's the question about this case. Like, why? What made her over a pair of yoga pants? It's just so crazy to me. Like, she was just evil, and got a scholarship. She was voted most valuable player and won a player of the month. There was no, I mean, she was stealing secretly, but every job she got promoted. She got scholarship. She got athlete of the year. You know what I mean? Like, she came from a great family. All her family was super overachievers. Everyone loved her parents, great people, and she does this. It's just so interesting to me.
Yeah, I find it weird because, like, what's the worst that would have happened if she got caught stealing? She would have got fired, but, like, how is that worse than...
And people say, oh, because she had that dream job interview lined up, so she probably thought, if I got caught for stealing, what? Like, I can't get that reference? Just use a different reference. Just lie. Get a fake reference. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
they could have, like, pressed charges of, like, theft, too, so she could have had a criminal record, and then...
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been life in prison.
No,
for sure.
I know, but she's probably thinking, like, I'm not gonna get that new job if I am, like, charged with stealing.
But you go to that extreme. That's what's so crazy. And the fact that she was studying, she wanted to be a social worker. And she was studying to be, and she was studying psychology and sociology, which is just fascinating to me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
This case is just, I mean, like I said, it's not a mystery. It was solved within a week. She's in jail. The body, like, it's all tied up very quickly, but it's like, why? Why?
That's crazy. I don't know. I just find it so weird that someone would just snap like that. Like, how maybe it's just also a little bit of, like, maybe part of it too is like a little bit of arrogance, like just assuming, oh, I won't get caught. Like, I can tell this story, I can make it look good, and, like, I'll just get away with it. Which is still crazy that someone would, like, resort to that over
it's just
pants.
Yeah. And it's interesting though too, like she said 2 masked men came in wearing all black, and then 2 masked men wearing black walked by the store right after the attack. It's like, and then you had that homeless guy that, like, see, at first that certain things were gonna line up to support. She got lucky. Like,
was it a coincidence that those men were there, or did she, like, see them maybe and be like, oh, I'm gonna bring that into my story? Like,
I don't know. She was in the store for a bit, and then she left out the front to take Jayna's car, and then she laid there for the rest of the night. I don't know how she would. I don't know. Like, they were just rushing past, going to work. I don't know how she would have.
It's crazy that she, like, laid there in the bathroom for those so many hours, like, just thinking about, like, did she fall asleep? Was she thinking about this the whole time? Like, she didn't, like, change her mind. Like, crazy that she, like, went that into
it.
That she laid there.
Yeah.
Until somebody found her.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just like, it's just crazy to me. I don't know. This case has stuck with me. Like I said, it's not like the normal ones. It's not a mystery or anything. But the mystery, I guess, is like, how, why, like, make it make sense, you know? But that's why I really do believe people are. I believe people are born evil. Some people are just bad seeds.
Yeah. Well, it definitely is. I think it's arrogance and like just selfishness. Like, my reputation is worth more than your life, so I'm gonna kill you.
Like yoga pants. I'm gonna kill you over a pair of yoga pants. You know, like,
yeah, like narcissism.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah,
like...
exactly. You see that with, like, like you were saying, like, kids kill their parents over, like, because they get their tablet taken away or something. Like, that's, like, I've heard stories of that. Yeah.
Although it's not even an option to weigh, though. Like, I would never think that is an option. Like, you know, when you're in the moment and something's happening, I could either do this or this. It's like, who would think, well, I could murder this person? Like, no normal person would ever think that. It's more so like, I could admit to it or I could lie. Not like, oh, I could just murder this person. Like, that's wild.
I don't think she would have gotten charged. I mean, you know, I've worked retail for years, and there's been people, we caught staff stealing. We never press charges. I mean, we just fire them. But I don't.
It's not worth the effort, like, to press charges and all that. It's probably
just
so
fire
much
them,
time
right?
and effort. Like,
yeah, it probably depends on how much. I've worked in stores too where they've caught people stealing, and the police like escort them out. So
yeah.
Embarrassing.
And, like,
yeah, it definitely is.
But it's just crazy to me. Like, yeah, someone would think like it's more like being caught and, like, escorted out by police or something, or like being exposed as a stealer is worse than this alternate option. It's just so crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, like, you think you didn't get away with the theft. Do you think you're getting away with this, like, elaborate murder? Like, it's like a delusion. It's definitely delusional as well.
And it's like the anger towards Jayna, like 331 stabbings. She was that mad because she stole. Like, she mad at Jayna because you stole. It's like psycho.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
It's like, how dare you say that about me? Like, again, it's the arrogance, right? Yeah.
It's like narcissism, like entitlement, delusion. Like,
it's just crazy. It's crazy to me. And when I first heard this case, like, the way, when I first heard it, when it was told to me, it made it seem like I was, like, the punchlines, but, like, at the very end was Brittany did it, but I was so shocked, like, and then I could not stop thinking about this case forever, even though it's not a mystery at all. It's just like, why? I don't know.
Yeah, it is a crazy one.
Crazy. Over a pair of yoga pants, like,
that's crazy.
It's silly, but
Yeah, it's like everything. It probably wasn't just about that one pair of yoga pants. Like everything was building up. Like she'd been caught before, and like those kinds of things. And now it was like finally, this was like the last straw. She took it out on Jayna, unfortunately. But yeah, it is crazy.
Wasn't really necessarily something about Jayna specifically. More so, like it would have been anyone.
Yeah,
They were in Jayna's place.
Yeah. You work at stores, and all the stores I worked at, everyone has to go around looking at everyone's bag under the camera before you leave. That's just store procedure. But I mean, if you know that's procedure, hide the pants under something in your purse. Like, why would you keep it open?
Do a better job.
You know Jayna's gonna be checking. That's what's store procedure. Why have plain open with the tag right in plain sight for everyone to see? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you take the tag off for one thing.
But like, why would you do that in your bag? Like, and it's just, I don't know. All of this could have been. She could have gotten away with stealing much easier.
Yeah.
If you didn't have it in your bag for the world to see.
Like, I was thinking like she was like doing stuff to try to get away with the murder. It's like it would have been a lot easier to get away with the
maybe try
like,
maybe try to hide the pants.
Try to get away with the stealing first.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But yeah, so
it's so sad. Like Jayna was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like it was her that was working that shift. Like it could have been
I know. And it was supposed to be
anyone.
she was covering someone's shift. She wasn't even supposed to be working that shift. And also it's supposed to be 3 people working that night. One person called in sick.
So like what was the purpose of calling her back to the store? Was it to make it look like they had but why did she just do it while they were both there? Was it to make it look like they both had left? She had left already. I don't know. Like why call her back?
I was thinking it was probably like they left and then she started thinking about it. Like, oh, this is gonna ruin my reputation. Like started to freak out. And then,
I guess,
which is crazy to me that you would even think that. But then it's like, I need to get her back here. Like, I'm going to do it. Which is crazy.
And she probably saw the schedule. Like, the owner and manager, Rachel, was working the next day. So she's probably like, oh my God, like, this is going to be notified right away. I'm going to get... she probably had time to think about it. And it's like, no, I have to kill her. I have to bring her back to that store. I have to kill her tonight. Yeah. My parents are going to find out. The school, like my job's going to find out. Everyone's going to find out. I'm going to lose this interview at this gym.
That probably helped her to get convicted for first degree by like luring her back there. It was like the whole plan.
Yes.
So that probably sealed it right there.
Yeah. And that was the thing. Like, it was like I only talked about the court case a little bit, but it was like, it was dead set. Like it was second degree. No, it was first. It was second. It's first. And the judge they only deliberated for like an hour. And that judge, and then like Brittany saying, I'm sorry for killing him, and but please have some mercy. Like I deserve to get out. It's just like hell no. I'm sentenced to life without parole. Like I like
you had zero mercy. Like over 300 wounds. Like that's a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Like,
and you showed no empathy or apology until the very last moment. And like even her defense team knew like there's no getting out of this. We have to like admit that she did it, but like put a spin on it because even they knew there's no way to say she didn't.
They were shocked and opened statements when he actually said, my client did kill Jayna, but they were second degree. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know.
Also, why were there no CCTV footage in the store?
I know, right? That's very strange to me. That there was no security cameras. I bet you there is now, but there was no security cameras there inside.
But it's not like this is that long ago. It was what, like 2007 or 8? Like
2011.
Oh, 2011. Like it's not that long ago. You'd think they would have.
I know.
Security cameras.
Especially like a higher end place, I was shocked. There was no cameras inside at all.
The craziest thing about it all too is like some woman like her, like she would have killed eventually if it wasn't her in that moment. Like someone like that who can do that in an instant, like it would have been someone else. Like whether it was like a year or a couple years down the line, like there would have been another time in her life where she would have been like faced with some type of like something where she was going to deal with consequences. And
like anytime she has to face up to what she did. And
like
get
so
punished.
That's the crazy thing. Like it would have been, she could have killed again. Like it could have been a multiple. She could have, if she didn't get caught. Like just someone like that.
But it's like
there's no.
She got kicked out of university because she did steal. She had other instances of stealing, and she didn't kill that. It's just like I don't know. It's just like what she just snapped.
So that does it for this week's episode of Crime Family. If you are a fan of the show and you want to follow us and interact with us, you can follow us at Crime Family Podcast on all the social media. So Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also on YouTube, just type in Crime Family Podcast on YouTube. You can watch the video versions of the episodes on there. Subscribe, comment, interact with us. And also you can find the video versions of the episodes on Spotify every week as well. Apple Podcasts and everywhere else, it's just audio. But if you want video, that's Spotify or YouTube. Make sure you give us a review on your podcast app of choice as well. And if you have any case suggestions or feedback on the show or theories on any of the cases that we've covered, then you can email us, crimefamilypodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you guys. So yeah, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode and case. And until then, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.